The night before Al Gore went to bed and dreamed up the internet, this was the show he had in mind. Welcome to the Fifth Mascot. There's Gaffer, there's Mr. Redleg, there's Mr. Red, there's Rosie Red, and then there are us with Mike Cannon and Mr. Satin, Ken Brew. So happy you're with us again on WCPO.com as we tackle all things Cincinnati Reds. Let's get to it. Reds and Cardinals this week. Not a bad series against the Cardinals. Not a bad series at all. Jason Marquis on the mound for a win. Cueto loses a game he should have won. And then the 11th inning loss that had Iglesias on the mound. So 1 out of 3, and quite possibly it could have been a sweep, Mike, had the pitching been just a little bit better.
Yeah, I think, it's tough in that game, too. Wacko pitched a great game, so that's a tough one to chalk up and say that one could have been. I mean, it was a good, close game. But the third game was very winnable. I was at that game. I mean, there's no way they should have lost that game.
I thought the thing about all 3 of those games was, and you're right about the Cueto loss, but Cueto deserved better. Cueto should be 2-0 right now.
Totally.
If they can get out of Marquis what they got out of Marquis, if they can get that out of him till maybe the middle of June, July, and then they can bring Iglesias up and then have him start, I think they're in pretty good shape with that particular spot in the starting rotation.
Yeah, I mean, it's a roller coaster right now. It's up and down right now. We started off so good, kind of dropped a couple of series, but yeah, I think we're right there. We need some pitching for sure, stepping it up.
They have to get what they got out of Marquis on Friday night, not what they got out of Marquis last night. 4 innings, 4 runs. I mean, that's not going to cut it. Yeah. That's 5th starter material maybe, but not when you're a contender or want to be a contender.
Well, if they can't get that out of him, then they're going to have to bite the bullet with Iglesias, and I don't think they really want him up here right now, unless he has to start. But I'll take 5 innings, 3 earned runs from Iglesias, and I mean, my goodness, 2 out of 8, 2 for 18 with runners in scoring position. That's horrible.
Yeah, where's our bats at? You know, the middle guys, the big guys, they start off hot, but they're not there right now. You know, I mean, you got BP, he's doing all right, but you know, Votto's doing good, but you know, those guys, Bruce, where's he at? You know, so we need some big bats down there in the middle of the lineup.
The first week it was Votto and Frazier; those were the only guys who were hitting.
Right.
Hamilton really hasn't hit yet. Hamilton is kind of interesting. You know, the last I checked his stats, his on-base percentage was pretty good, but he wasn't hitting. Yeah. So if nothing else, maybe he's at least a patient hitter.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting on base, or at least he was until last night when I think he's going over. And that brought his on-base percentage down pretty quickly with a small sample size. But, you know, he's got to get on base, and then the rest of the guys have to continue to hit. My hope is, I mean, in general, batting average with runners in scoring position tends to be a stat that evens itself out. And so they're not hitting now. Hopefully that will even itself out. But, I mean, you saw last year's team, they never really did hit with runners in scoring.
Has he ever shown discipline at the plate?
The disembodied voice belonging to Matt Lukin, who continues to work the controls back there with his cast of characters.
Mike and Brian.
Hola.
But yeah, does Hamilton have we ever seen Hamilton have discipline at the plate? I mean, he's excitable, and you like if he gets on, everybody's just waiting for that to happen. But he hasn't hit 250 for 2 weeks in a row yet, has he?
No, and he had the problem he had the end of last season too, where he couldn't hit.
If you put him at the 7th or 8th hole, people would go bonkers at that. I mean, I don't know that word excitement. I mean, I think that's why you keep him up there. You know, he's patient. At some point, you got to hope.
You can't hit him that way.
Yeah,
right,
he's of no use unless you lead him off.
I mean, the answer to your question is no. He hasn't shown patience and discipline very successfully at the major league level. But if you look at his minor league stats, I mean, he's getting on base at a 340 clip, 413 in 2012 at single A before they bumped him up. I mean, he's got on base a lot at the lower levels, and it just hasn't translated yet into the big leagues. It takes time to, I mean, he's still, 23 years old? It takes time to learn at the big league level. He's still a young guy.
Did you see that 2-strike bunt that he put in the dugout last night?
I have no idea what he was doing.
It was at the beginning of the game. He was up. There were 2 strikes. He tried to push one to second base and almost hit the dugout.
We can't
I'll take what we're getting from Hamilton.
You will?
Right now, yeah.
At
this point in his career.
Well, I don't
He's
know.
on base once a game, basically. What's his on base now?
His on base right now is around 300.
300. So you're getting on base once a game.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can afford a leadoff hitter getting on base once a game. I know they can't get on. I know you can't get on base 2 and 3 times consistently. But if the stats say you're getting on base once a game, to me that's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think he's got to get on base more for them to really be successful. You also have to look at the defense he brings to the table. I mean, he's got the best range of any center fielder you're going to find anywhere. I mean, he's outstanding. If he's not a Gold Glover, it's just because that Juan Lagares guy for the Mets is just like unbelievable.
Zach Kozar, what about that guy? He's 7th, 8th guy. I would have never thought he would hit the ball as well as he's doing right now. He's out of this world right now.
Well, his misses are better than his hits last season. Well, they really are.
Right.
I mean, he's not popping up as much. He's grounding out. When he grounds out, he's hitting the ball pretty well.
Do you move him up? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you could if there was a spot in the 2-hole, which is what Dusty did a few years ago. But not moving Votto out, and I don't think, even though Kozar did lead off when he was in the minors, when he played with the bats, I don't think you can move him. I think they got to leave Billy Hamilton there and hope. But
Yeah,
I
think so too.
You know, and you know the next guy is going to get on base too. But I think if you look, it's Frazier and Votto the first week, and then it's Frazier. Less of Frazier, about the same of Votto and Phillips in the second week.
Yeah.
But it's basically been 2 to 3 guys so far this minute, and that's it. And that's again, that's another problem.
Yeah. Well, and you haven't had Mesoraco because he's hurt,
Right.
and then you've got the fact that Bruce really he's got a little bit of power, but he hasn't hit the ball the way he needs to.
Yeah. That winning streak last week was fool's gold. It seems like.
Who was that catcher they brought up? What was his name? Shipwreck? What's his name?
Skipworth.
From G.I. Joe,
Kyle Skipworth.
Skipworth. That's it. Yeah. But I mean, so they bring him up. They don't bring Tucker Barnhart up.
Yeah.
And that, to me, that was like because Barnhart spent some time here, unless his major league clock is close to, ending its tick. But my point is again, it points to the lack of depth in this organization. There's just nothing. There's nowhere to go unless the guys you have here can get it done.
Well, they were crippled by a weird kind of like little nuance with the rule that like when you send someone down, when you option someone, you can't call them back up for 10 days unless there's an injury. So because they didn't put Mesoraco on the disabled list, anyone that they optioned at the end of spring training, they couldn't recall. So that's why they had to pull in some guy who wasn't even on the 40-man roster.
That's why Barnhart's not here.
That's why Barnhart's
but
not here.
isn't that what you pay the front office to do, to know those rules? I mean, that's a situation you put yourself into.
Yeah, but
that's not something that just happens to you.
Yeah, but you can't anticipate that Mesoraco in the first week of the season is going to have something wrong with his hip, and you're going to need another catcher on the team.
I knew that.
See?
No, I read about that.
Walt needs an assistant. Walt
Yeah.
needs an
About that.
assistant, and Ken's the man.
I
Well, we
dreamed
know
about that.
we know that the Cardinals are always going to be a tough team to beat. But what's with this? What's with losing to the Cubs? Okay, I don't care about the new manager or whatever. That's just terrible. What happened?
Well, when you got pitching giving up 7 runs in one game and 5 the next to anybody, I don't care where you're playing, you're probably not going to win. Is this team capable, the Reds I mean, of scoring consistently 6 runs a game? And the answer to that question, I think, is no. So you give 7 up when Leake's on the mound, you give 5 up when Marquis on the mound, and you're pretty much cooked at that point.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the Cubs are a much better team. I think we can't overlook them and say the Cubs are the laughing stock of the NL Central. I mean, I watched.
Better than the Reds, though?
I don't know if they're better than the Reds.
Okay.
I mean, the Reds should still take care of business against the Cubs, and they have
exactly.
owned the Cubs at Wrigley until the last 2 series, the end of last year and this year, beginning of this year. But
they should have won. They should have won 2 out of 3.
They should have won 2 out of 3.
Both
and
the last 2 series that they lost, they should have won 2 out of 3.
With any decent relief pitching, they would have won 2 out of 3 against the
Exactly.
Cardinals and 2 out of 3 against the Cubs.
Right.
And those are the series, though, that we look back, in the end of August, and we're like, why didn't we get those? Why didn't we get that sweep? Take 2 or 3. Those are the ones now they're like, we should have, could have. But I tell you what, we don't make the playoffs. We look at those teams we should beat, and it's heartbreaking.
But you just wonder if all of this doesn't come back to average anyway. I mean, Jason Marquis, God bless him, he hasn't thrown a pitch since 2013. So, as you mentioned, the Marquis on the other night compared to the Marquis over the weekend are 2 different things. I think that's what you're going to get. I mean, you're talking about a 4th or a 5th guy in a rotation. You're basically talking about, on most teams, 500 pitchers.
Yeah. If Marquis could be a 500 pitcher, I think the Reds would be ecstatic with that.
Oh, I think so too.
I'm not sure he can be.
I have an idea.
Good. I like your
All
ideas.
right, my idea with Marquis, and let's say even Kevin Gregg, let's open up a sandwich shop together. We can do it downtown next to the stadium. I'll be a partner in that. I got a couple bucks I'll throw out that. I think they could probably be be a bigger partner in that. I think they have probably more funds.
Why a sandwich shop?
Well, I think there's a need for a sandwich shop down there by the Reds ballpark.
Mr.
And I also
Satin is
think,
a connoisseur of sandwiches.
and I also think that they would be great at serving up, some sandwiches, some meatball sandwiches, and these kind of things.
You know, Johnny Rocket's closed. There's an
Right
open
there.
There's an open
Kevin's
spot.
right, Marquis Jason, let's do it. Let's open a sandwich shop right there, man. Let's do it.
You know the thing about Greg and
This is falling off.
What's that?
Well, I'm just saying we've digressed a little bit, but that's okay. Continue.
No, well,
Digression's fine.
but think about it.
Career
Downtown,
changes and investments.
Where
Okay.
on
That's
the,
what I'm saying,
on the
though.
banks do you find a sandwich shop?
Exactly.
You go to the art house, you're talking about $10, $15 for an
Yeah.
entree.
There's
Right.
a Jimmy John's down there, I think.
You know
On
what?
the banks?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think there is.
Is
Yeah, I'm
there?
pretty sure. I think I've gotten one there.
But if
Yeah.
Jason Marquis is going to sign your sandwich, we're onto something there. You know what I mean? I think that's what I'm saying.
They'll be lined up
and
all
we'll
the
make
way to the
aprons,
ballpark.
We'll make aprons. We'll have everything, like gloves.
Maybe
got-
he could throw it to you.
Exactly. That's good. I
I
like
got the
that.
name for the place.
What's that?
Marquee Attraction.
There it is. Right there. Done.
How about
Going,
that?
going, going.
I think they should have some time, though. Hopefully, Brian Price gives them some time here to open a sandwich shop.
How about
'cause-
the 8th inning?
Yeah, right, exactly.
It doesn't open until the end,
6th,
right?
7th, 8th inning, yeah, right
Yeah.
there.
Well, good.
We haven't. There's been a lot of bad things, but one thing that's finally come back to the fore is Joey. Do you think the 2-hole is the answer to this whole situation? I mean, and is it just because Hamilton had a good week?
No, I honestly, he begged Dusty Baker to let him hit in the 2-hole, and Baker consistently said no. He has lobbied for this for a long time. I think the best thing, what's going on with Joey is, if you noticed, Frazier hit well behind him in the first week, and Phillips has hit well behind him in the second week. Now, I'm not a big believer in protecting batters and things like that, but I do think you'll see better pitches if there's somebody behind you that could get you into trouble as well. Now, who knows how long it lasts, but I think there's something going on there.
No, I agree completely, but I think we can't discount the fact that Joey Votto looks like he's actually healthy for once. I mean, if you just watch the way he moves around the field, so I was watching, I think, the Monday night game, and even my wife, who's like casually not even really watching that closely, is like, wow, Joey Votto looks like he's lost some weight. He looks
That's
like
what I
he's
thought,
moving
too.
around better.
That's what I thought, too. He looks
I mean,
slimmer.
he just looks like a different ball player, and I think that's what we're seeing, as much as the fact that people around him are actually producing now.
Sort of.
If you look at his numbers, he's producing very consistently to what he did in 2010 and 2012 when he was a star. His on-base percentage, his slugging percentages are very, very similar to what they were in those 2 years. And then you just have to look at the years when he really struggled and hope that that's just an injury and that he can get past that and be the player that he was.
And he shaved his head.
And he shaved
Now,
his
I don't
head.
want to say anything, because I mean, but it just seems like that it's almost like Samson in reverse. That he shaved his head
Wow.
and he's healthy.
Yeah.
Now you
We're
talk
getting
about
biblical now,
You talk
but
about
okay.
you talk about your wife. My wife said that she was at the Kroger in Madeira, and she said that she thought she saw Joey Votto, but she wasn't sure because he didn't have any hair. I said, you probably did, because he shaved his head.
Yeah.
Not necessarily at the Kroger while he was shopping, but I think there could be something going on there.
Maybe all the Reds should shave their heads.
Yeah.
Maybe we could.
Why not? Start a trend and just write it and see what we can do with it.
What could Jason Marquis do if he shaved his head?
Oh,
Think about it.
The challenge has been thrown out there to Jason Marquis.
Andrew McCutcheon got rid of his dreadlocks.
Yeah.
There could
He's
be something
faster
to it.
now too with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Wind resistance.
I was going to say that. I'm
Oh.
glad you brought that up. But I think
Sure.
to answer your question, well, we might have gotten off on a tangent there. But I think to answer your question, I think
That's
Joey
our
Votto
format.
hitting in the 2-hole is great, as long as you got some people that can follow him. And Phillips has
Right.
been terrific this week.
He's had an outstanding. He's 7 for 11 against the Cubs, and
Right.
that's only because he had to come out of that one game when he got sort of his bell rung at third base. But he only had 2 at bats. But yeah, he had 2 hits, and 4 hits, or something like that. But what do you think about that? I mean, is that just a flash in the pan because he wasn't hitting before that?
No, but I think when he's healthy. Remember, 2 years ago, was it 2 years ago? He got hit by a pitch by the Pirates.
Yeah, on the hand.
On the hand, and he missed 8 weeks. He was en route to be the MVP of the National League that year.
He was leading the league in RBIs when he went down. I mean,
Right. And then last year he had that hamstring issue. I think it was a hamstring issue, a quad or something that knocked him out for a while. I think he's another guy when he's healthy, but he's an older ball player. And he's not old, but he's older. And when you have particularly muscle injuries, when you're an older ball player, it just takes you a while to get back from those things. I think Brandon Phillips is fine. And on a team that's going to be hard-pressed to score runs, he's run prevention.
yeah. I mean, I think he's going to be a fine player. The one thing with Brandon that I've noticed, I don't know if anyone else has, is you watch him on the base paths, he is not the fast runner that he was. I mean, there were times like when the guy that the Cubs got from the Cardinals, Lester, he can't throw the ball to first base. He has no pickoff move. He has a mental block on his pickoff move. And Phillips is going nowhere. I mean, 2-3 years ago, that would have been a no-brainer that he steals second base.
He's still got cat-like reflexes.
He does.
His defense is unreal. He's still the best out there.
He's got the quickness, but not the speed.
Yeah.
I noticed
one play he played when he was on his rear end and he threw the guy out to Cozer.
So good.
I think
that's amazing.
Unreal.
Yeah, his slugging percentage is the exact same as his batting average because he's only got singles. Now, I'm not complaining. Getting on base is getting on base, but he used to be able to hit the ball a little harder. But we'll see. It's only a week and a half.
Matt, I'm all for, and this team has not embraced this concept forever. I'm okay with him hitting singles. I'm okay with Votto hitting doubles. It's get him on, get him over, getting in. But the days of waiting for lightning to strike on a 3-run home run, I think, on this club particularly, are over. The only guy that you could possibly say that could happen with is Bruce. And Bruce is morphing into Adam Dunn with defense. So it may be, that after that, it's kind of like that's it, So why? So he hit singles. I have no problem with that.
I don't either, but he used to be able to hit for some power, not so much home runs, but he would drive him into the gap every now and then.
I think the Cardinals won that way last year. They hardly had any home runs.
Yeah, they had virtually no home runs and virtually no stolen bases last year. But they put the ball in play.
Right.
They
hit with two
counts.
We talked about they have nothing. 1 through 8 clutch hitters. That's something that we aspire to do.
Can I bust format here for a second? Not that I ever like to do that, but I just, in playing off this, the guy I'm concerned about in that lineup right now is Marlon Byrd. He just looks old. I mean, his swing seems slow. And I know he struck out a lot last year and the year before, and before that, not so much. But you sign this guy and you're saying, okay, just look at his numbers. This is a 28-85 guy, if you look. And he's not, he's just not, his swing just looks really slow. I don't know if it's a slow start and he's going to be fine, but I'm telling you, that's the guy I'm looking at saying, what's going on here?
I didn't realize how old he was. Last night they said on the game that he was trying to correct the announcers because they called him 38 and he said, I'm only 37.
Yeah.
So, 37, 38, that's, if you're not Pete Rose or a handful of other people, you're not playing baseball usually.
He's in good shape. I mean, he obviously looks like he's taking care of himself, but it's his swing that just looks like he's just having trouble catching up with 91 and 92 mile an hour fastball.
Yeah, he's stunned me with the defense he's played.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes.
He's actually been a defensive upgrade in left field, which I never thought I would be saying about a 37-year-old left fielder. But when it comes to the offensive side of the game, I mean, he just hasn't looked that great. Now, it's early. It's only a week in. Hopefully, it's just, everyone has these ebbs and flows, and his is just starting at the beginning of the season. But, you have a 37-year-old left fielder, there's probably a little bit of cause for concern. If a week from now we're talking about Marlon Byrd still hitting in the 140s, I'd be a little bit more concerned.
Who's the last great defensive left fielder the Reds had? Think about that.
Kevin Mitchell.
Kevin Mitchell.
Hey, the one-handed catch, right? Come on.
Okay, if you're going to say Kevin Mitchell, how about Cal Daniels?
That's true. I said Cal Daniels.
No, but I mean,
Deion Sanders?
It certainly wasn't
left,
Ryan
right?
Ludwig. It certainly wasn't Adam Dunn, although I think Adam Dunn's defense was grossly underrated.
He was terrible.
No, he was not.
Horrible. I could play left field better than Adam Dunn.
You couldn't play left.
He was terrible. He never cut anything off. He didn't do anything but just go to the wall and wait till it came back to him. That's all he did.
And they had a lot of pitchers.
You never saw him make a play where you were like, that was a good play.
I did.
He held a guy. Well, I must have been absent that day.
No, it was against the Astros in May of 2003. He made a great play.
Yeah, but he was like, he made a great play.
I stand corrected.
His first couple of years, he was a pretty athletic guy. I mean, you're talking about a guy who was recruited to play quarterback in college football.
Right.
He was a pretty athletic guy, but his body type, and he just kind of got bigger and slower, and lumbering is exactly the word I would use.
But I tell you what, though, Matt, to your point of it, going to the wall and coming back, that's a pretty good move for a big man. Let it go to the wall and come back. Seriously, that's all right.
Well, let me just say this.
Is that your strategy, Mr. Satin?
Exactly.
Bigger people look like they're not hustling. They're just taking longer strides.
Are you taking this personal? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, sometimes you got to have there's a refrigerator on your back. Sometimes you just got to let.
started with a conversation about Joey that was going good, but I think the reason that this team is in trouble is middle relief. They cannot get to Chapman. They had some good starts.
In a related story, the Lindbergh baby was kidnapped. Yes,
well,
of course.
I understand, but that's just is there any relief in sight for that? I mean, take a look at these numbers.
Right, but hang on a second about the. I think those numbers are skewed because of two pitchers. They're skewed because of Jumbo Diaz and Kevin Gregg. I think when you look at what Cingrani has done, it's been good. You look, obviously, what Chapman has done has been good. I talked to a guy today from USA Today, their national baseball writer, Gabe Lax. He said the bullpen right now here is about 6 outs away. This team is 6 outs away from its pitching, from being a really, really good pitching staff, bullpen and starters. So you got to hope that Greg can figure it out. Badenhoff, you look at him last year, he had a lousy April, but after that, he pitched pretty well.
Yeah.
So I think you're really talking about two guys. You're talking about Greg, you're talking about Diaz. And I don't understand still why LeCure isn't up here. He's had a couple of outings in Louisville.
That's
one wasn't
Mike's
so
boy.
great. Another one was very, very good.
That's Mike's boy.
I don't know why he's not here.
But he seems like he's a battler, and he just knows how to pitch. And you can still do that with I haven't seen him pitch this year, but if you can pitch, even if you lose some of your stuff, you can still pitch.
Yeah,
Besides Chapman last year, I thought LeCure was pretty much our most valuable player in the bullpen.
But listen
pitched,
to this. Everybody was talking when he got sent down. Well, he lost velocity off his fastball, okay? Mm-hmm. You tell me why this is important. If you got a starting pitcher, and that starting pitcher is throwing 92, 93, why then is it not okay to bring in a reliever that's throwing 92, 93? Why do they all got to throw 98 and 99?
Because LeCure wasn't throwing 92 or 93 when they sent him down. He was throwing more like 85 to 88.
That's a problem.
That's a big difference.
Right.
So, but
I haven't
he's
seen him, but
out.
you can still do it. Lake does it. His fastball most of the time tops in the high 80s, and but he sometimes throws a 72 mile. I know.
LeCure's got two pitches.
LeCure, so it was velocity and it was location. Leak, he Leak's more like a 90 to 92 guy. If he's in the 88s, he's going to be in trouble. But he also has location of 4 pitches. LeCure has location of maybe 3 pitches when he's on. But the thing that they were saying when they sent him down was not only was his velocity way down, but he used to have that fastball that would run back on the inside for a lefty, just right on the inside corner and just buckle him. And that was his bread and butter pitch to lefties. That's why he was so successful. Right. And they were saying he couldn't hit that spot at all. And he couldn't hit the outside corner to a lefty. He couldn't hit the outside corner to a righty. And when he doesn't have that location and he's throwing 85 to 88, that's batting practice.
Did he get hurt? Did he get hurt, or is he just getting older, or how do you know?
I mean, he's like 31, so it's not like he's that old, but I mean, who knows? I mean, the 2 years ago when he had his great year, they used him like every day. It was like they thought he was Scott Sullivan or something like that.
You know what's frightening here?
What's that?
This guy actually knows baseball.
I know. He really does.
I don't know how he got on. I don't know how he got on.
Not like last year.
That guy?
Well, it's kind of because I don't have anything else to do but watch baseball. So
You're on it, man.
Well, you were at the game Sunday, and we want to switch gears. That replay of the play where the guy topped it or bunted it right in front of the plate, Mesoraco picked it up and tried to tag him, and they called him safe, and then he throws to Frazier.
Right.
And then how can they – I understand what they looked at, but I don't understand why they don't understand. You can't do that. Frazier reacted to the umpire's safe call.
Right, exactly.
The umpire says safe.
Right.
So Frazier tags third and throws to first, and then after the fact, they say, well, he was tagged out at home, so it has to be a tag play. That's like going back in time. You can't do that.
I agree.
I mean, that would seem to me that baseball people would know that inherently. They just wouldn't even think twice about it and say, well, it was the wrong call, but the third baseman reacted to it. And they spent forever talking about it, and then they let that stand.
Right. If I were Major League Baseball right now, you know what I would do? It would be a bold move. I just scrap instant replay.
I agree.
I would use it for home run calls, and that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Wow.
I don't mind
tags,
it.
nothing like that.
I don't mind it so much, but that particular call cannot be done.
See, but that's the point, Matt.
In the
It's not
middle
like
of a
football.
play, you have a domino effect when
Right.
you're making a double play,
Right.
and you can't go back and take the first call back.
You're right.
And then say he's supposed to know that.
And there's no other sport where that's a problem. That's
Right.
a problem only in baseball because multiple things happen on plays. Now, yes, you can say football could have holding, it could have pass interference, but football doesn't have one play that affects the flow of the play at another end. It's either one play holding or it's interference.
Or you
it's
can,
not like one thing happens.
decline it. Or you can decline it.
Right.
And in this place, why can't we just say, okay, we decline that. We want to let him go to first base.
Baseball,
choose your own
replay doesn't
adventure
work
book.
in baseball.
Yeah. I agree.
That was infuriating to me that just wasn't obvious to every baseball player or baseball person who was involved in the whole process.
And it didn't affect the game.
No,
it didn't affect the
thankfully
game.
it didn't.
But again, this is, I don't know, maybe like the 6th or 7th example that I've seen that where replay simply doesn't work in this sport.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
So
Plus
we got to
it's
scrap
tough.
that.
Yeah, it's like it is. It's like a choose your own adventure book. You can't go to page 28 if you haven't read 13, and
What adventure book?
go to page 42.
Didn't you ever read the Cliff Notes, Mr. Sack?
It's all over the place. You know those choose your own adventure books when you were a kid. Yeah.
What kind of book?
Choose your own adventure.
Choose your own adventure.
Oh yeah, there's like a million endings. Probably
Is that like a
more
Hardy
20.
Boys or something?
Are
What is
Spot
that?
and Jane involved in this book?
Probably.
Because that's all the books I know.
They were for kids. Remember when you were a kid?
Nice, Joe. We didn't have electricity. I couldn't read. So anyway, replay needs a replay. I agree 100% with that. And the thing is, it's toothpaste out of the tube. It's not going to go back in. But still, I think it's.
Maybe they'll let Pete in and scrap instant replay. Ban instant replay and let Pete in.
Wow.
Maybe they're watching the
Erase
Fifth
history
Mascot.
is what
If I was running for president, that would be my campaign slogan right
Plus,
there.
I miss managers being able to go out there and argue and get. I liked Brian Price getting thrown out the other day.
That's what he got thrown out for was stupid.
Was that instant replay?
He got thrown out over an instant replay call where he was arguing that it wasn't his call to challenge.
Yeah, see?
It was the Cardinals' call to challenge. And then he was saying, well, someone should challenge it, but why should I be the one who has to challenge it? This is a call that's not in my favor, basically.
It's really confusing, and it takes all that just rush of energy and spontaneous, amazingness from these guys out of the game. It takes some fun out of it.
It's entertaining to watch a manager get thrown out. I think.
And you also have, you got this long pause while they go to New York, and then you got a pitcher standing there.
Yeah, that's
trying to get back in or out of the flow of the game. You have everyone in baseball is so concerned about the pace of the game and the speed of the game. Nothing takes more time and energy and flow away from the game than a 7-minute break while they go put on the headsets and figure out what's going on in New York. It's stupid.
The best game ever is when Lou Piniella ran out to second base and threw it 10 feet in the air because of, I think it was an Eric Davis home run call. And that was the greatest game.
And then he went and threw it again.
I love, that's what baseball. That's why I love baseball so much. It's because of those moments.
It reminded me of a game, the double play that they reversed. Reminded me of the Dave Pallone play, which was similar because Pallone hesitated. He called him safe at first. You remember that play when Pete got suspended for a month? Mm-hmm. They threw to first. There was a guy going home. Esaski looks over. Pallone goes safe, out. And then he hesitated, and the guy was safe at home. And Pete came out and went nuts, and he got right up against him, and he started pointing at him. He says Pallone pointed at him and touched his face, and then he shoved him, and he was gone for a month. But that was one of the greatest things. I was down there. People started throwing stuff on the field. They had this. I watched it on YouTube the other day when we were talking about it, and they put a sign up on the board saying, "Please do not throw anything on the field because the game might be forfeited. Cool it. Love Marge." That's what was on the scoreboard that day.
That's great.
Anyway, I think we're all in agreement. Replay is.
So yesterday, the major leagues honored the first black player in baseball.
Yes.
This week in 1954, 7 years after Jackie Robinson, the Reds had their first African American and actually the first black player to play for the Reds. Take that was Nino Escalera. He was from Puerto Rico, and in the same inning he pinch hit, and then in the same inning later on, Chuck Harmon, who's still a resident of Cincinnati, has a street named after him in Gulf Manor, I believe.
So Escalera actually got into the game before Chuck.
He did. And I was looking at this. They keep referring to him as a black player, and I don't know if the Puerto Rican people are referred to as black players, or he was a black person, African who was born.
Was he from Cuba?
He was from Puerto Rico. He was born in Puerto Rico, and they referred to him as the first black player that the Reds ever played. I talked to John Arardi, and he said that is the person that they say is the first black player. But Chuck Harmon was the first African American. But both of them. April 17, 1954, there's a plaque out in front of Great American Ballpark. They honored Chuck Harmon in his 50th anniversary of that day in 2004.
There's not a nicer man on this planet than Chuck Harmon.
Right.
I don't know. I'm guessing Nino Escalera is no longer with us.
I do not know.
But you know what's I mentioned Cuba only because before he passed away, the guy that was the business manager for the Reds for many, many years, John Murdo, who later went on and became the business manager for the Bengals. The Reds had a farm club in Jersey City, New Jersey. They were the Jersey City Giants or whatever it was. I forget what they were called. And there was actually a team in that, the International League, in Cuba before Fidel Castro took over. And he told me that they actually, before Havana fell, that they were in a position, they were about to send in just a boatload of scouts just to scour Cuba because they thought, we got to get these guys and get them out of there now before all of this gets shut off, which it eventually did. But for years, the Reds struggled with Latin players. They just didn't seem to be in the Latin market as well as some other teams. And what did Escalera do, by the way?
He was he eventually became a scout for the Oakland A's. He played just one season for the Reds.
Yeah.
He batted 159, had 11 hits, mostly pinch hitting.
So not much.
Not much. Chuck Harmon didn't do much either for the Reds.
And it took the Reds 7 years to integrate.
Correct. From the time of Jackie Robinson, which I don't know how fast other teams did it. I don't think there was an avalanche at that point.
Larry Doby, I believe, was the first for the Indians.
And that was in the 50s, wasn't it?
And the Yankees were really slow to the take on that. Their first African-American player was Elston Howard. And he, I believe, was like late 50s, maybe 1960 is when he came up as Yogi Berra's heir apparent.
We'll have to defer to you on that, Ken.
Well, none of you were alive back then, that's why. Part of the problem of being the oldest man in the room is that you're not only committed to remembering history, but at your age, you forget it too. So that's part of the problem.
But we can't challenge you on it, so.
No, but I'm sure somebody.
There you go. Somebody's got to have a computer.
Now that WCPO.com is #1 among all broadcast websites, print and broadcast websites. Can you say print anymore? Because it's really like multimedia platforms.
I would say we're the #1 media outlet website
in the world.
In the world, maybe.
In our world.
in our world, in our Cincinnati world.
Yeah, so I'm sure somebody can challenge.
Well, moving on, this looks a lot different than it did last week. What do we think moving forward? The Cubs, the Chicago Cubs, are in first place after taking 2 of 3 from the Reds. It's early, but.
And the Pirates aren't going to be 3. The Pirates are going to be good. I think they're just off to a little bit of a rough start. But here's a stat. I actually did this research earlier today while I was getting dressed, and I had to take a time out from that. In the month of April, since the inception of the second wild card, which is short, it's not a big sample size, teams that have played 568 or better have qualified for the postseason. So it leads you to believe that if you get off to a decent start in April, you're going to make the playoffs. If 568 gets you in the short, 3 or 4 years history of the second wild card. So keep this up, and maybe there's something to consider, or you buck history. But maybe this is something to consider.
Yeah, I mean, there's a long season. We got plenty of time. Yeah. And I do think the Cubs might be a force to be reckoned with. I don't think I would scoff at them so cavalierly, but.
I don't think they can wipe that stink off that quick. I don't know.
That Solaire's a good player.
If I could.
By the way,
Chris Bryant's coming too. So.
Hang on a second. I don't mean to make light of this, but I was watching the game, and Solaire had.
The mask.
What was that all about?
It's like a heat mask or something, right?
I don't know.
You got to keep the cheeks warm.
It's cold up.
Was
there.
he hurt?
No, I think it was just cold. It was
people wore shirt sleeves.
Intimidation factor, though.
Well,
Dave Parker, when he played for the Pirates, wore a hockey mask because he broke his face.
I thought looking at that, I was scrambling to the internet to try and find out if he had a broken jaw or something. And then he gets hit. Then Marquis, who, if we all remember, Bean Scott Rowland, like the first 3 games roll or something like that. He hits the guy, and I'm thinking, this guy's looks like he's already been hurt, and then he gets hit. What?
Right in the shoulder.
Yeah, but it was by Marquis, so it was like an 86 mile per hour.
That's right.
So.
Yeah,
that's right. I didn't know. But anyway, go ahead. What were you going to say about Solaire?
Oh, just you got to keep the cheek muscles. You got to keep them real warm up there.
He's a good player.
Oh, he looks great. I mean, him with Chris Bryant, they will be up there. I think they're going to be better than Pittsburgh, and Milwaukee. I really do. But we got to beat the Cardinals. That's what it's all about.
How do you think we're going to handle this? This is a tough week.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Homer's coming back. I don't know what that's going to be, but yeah, at the Cardinals, the way the mood amongst this team right now, and going into St. Louis, it would be lucky, I think, to get one.
Here's a question.
Ooh,
I don't
really?
get. I just.
Well, the mood has to be terrible. You go 4-0 and then 1-4. I mean, 4-0, they're riding high, and then having that rug pulled out from under you. If they would have just gone 1-1-1-1-1 and they'd be 5-4 like that, that'd be one thing. But
They've
when they're
just held on to
4-0,
Travis Wood. They would have been fine.
yeah, well,
Yeah, he looked good.
Well, I mean, I don't think that. And Ken, you've spent a lot more time in a major league clubhouse than I have, but I don't think that the major
I wouldn't
leaguers.
walk into one now if I were you.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. I don't think that they get that high and that low. I mean, it's a 162 game season, and these guys have been there before. Like, I don't think that they're like are about ready to jump off a bridge right now because they just lost
No,
4 of the last 5.
I don't either, but they have to be feeling down. That, you go 4-0, and you start to think, not that you're going to the World Series, but you're playing well, and then you lose 2 straight series.
I think I think bigger than losing 4 of the last 5 is the fact that they lost those 2 games that they should have won. The bullpen blew. I think that probably has more of an impact on the collective psyche, because you feel like, okay, I've got this. We've got this win, especially the game on Monday against Leicester, where they come out and they add on 3 more runs after it was tied to take a 6-3 lead. You're playing good ball late in the game, and you feel like we got this, and then all of a sudden the game's gone, and you just lost.
Right.
I think that probably has more of an impact than losing 4 of 5.
You win that game and you win the series in the Cardinals series here last Sunday. If you look at that game on Sunday, they had the game-winning run, or I take that back. They had a runner in scoring position in the 8th, 9th, and 10th innings, and they couldn't get the guy in.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not talking a guy on second with no outs or 1 out, and they couldn't get the guy in.
Right.
Well, we started to touch on it earlier, but the fundamentals on this team are still awful.
Yep.
I mean, that's the thing that's really cost them. So on Sunday, if they could have got
2 bunts.
They had 2 opportunities to get bunts down.
Yeah.
One of which was, this is a call I just don't understand from Brian Price. You got Mesoraco on your bench, and you're going to send up Cingrani to bunt, and he doesn't even come close to getting it down.
That
was
was
terrible.
I don't see why they don't have Leak do that.
So you've got
Leak can handle the bat.
Cingrani was still in the game. I think they wanted to keep him in the game for whatever reason, but so you've got failed execution and also just an odd managerial call.
Well, he would have been in real trouble if he did that, right? Because didn't Pena get hurt after that? If he had used Mesoraco and then had departed,
Pena got hurt right before that, so he had to put Mesoraco into the game anyway.
Okay.
Zincrani didn't even come back in though, did he?
I don't know whether they did or not. I can't remember.
I really
but
don't think he came back in the game.
But he's got to get the
Every
bunt
pitcher's
down.
got to do that. They're worthless at the plate unless they can do that. I mean, that's all. I would not have those guys take batting practice. Just have them up there and bunt.
Yeah.
Well, I don't see why they don't have Leak. If Leak's not pitching, why he doesn't go into bunt every time? He can handle the bat. He knows what
Leak
he's
was
doing.
going to be your starter the next night.
Well,
So he can't bunt?
Brandon
Well,
can
you
put
know,
down.
run in, and they have their routines on their day before a start. But Brandon couldn't get
He
down a
paid
bunt
it
that
now.
day. And then I think there was a game earlier I think one of Leak's 2 starts where Leak couldn't get a bunt down. So they're struggling to get the bunts down. They're still making ridiculous mistakes on the base paths. Votto running past and getting thrown out, and then Bruce with that crazy play. I think it was Tuesday night getting thrown out. So the fundamentals are still just not there.
I got to. One thing I'm looking forward to, and this weekend and seeing the Cardinals and the Reds, is I want to see how Brian Price responds, because I felt like he got outmanaged with the matchups, the pitchers in and out. I mean, there was a couple innings where the skipper for the Cardinals put in 4 or 5 pitchers in one inning just to get through it. And is it ego? I don't know what that is. Like, why can't we do that? Like, why can't we make this?
You know why? Because when he goes to his bullpen, he has at least some sort of an idea of what he's going to get. When Price goes to his bullpen, it's like Forrest Gump, like a box of chocolates.
It's very true. But if get him out, next guy up, at least we have to.
And there was a dirty slide in that.
All right.
So that could be some meat for the old bone. Well, we're done. Well, just for this
For
week.
now.
Unless you've heard otherwise. We're back next Thursday, and every Thursday live at 1:30 Eastern Time, and then 24/7, 356 on WCPO. You can watch it en toto, or you can watch it with Dorothy. You might want to watch it too. For all of us here at the Fifth Mascot, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week on WCPO.com.